Hey everyone, welcome back to the second part of fixing the high mileage bugeye here. I figured I'd start with what I consider to be probably the most difficult part of this refresh here, which is this rear driver frame rail. So right beside the muffler here, you can see it really corroded. This was also after hitting it with a hammer. So I've started working my way around getting out the spot welds. You can see there I was able to make another hole. Working a little bit on this side. Where it gets tricky, and I'm not sure yet what I'm gonna do. So see how it just kind of lays in with the inner rocker there? And then the frame goes up, and then there's a tab that goes over. So to actually get that out in entirety, you would have to take off the quarter panel, the rocker, the inner rocker. So I'll show you on the other piece. So that lip is tucked in between two pieces of metal in the car. That shouldn't be too hard to get out, but this part here. So I mean, you only have visibility of the part up to there, and then it goes down and then onto this tab. This is something, you know, that is bolting all your suspension, your subframe together, so it is pretty important to have it rigid. Kinda sketchy. This section here does make it quite difficult. So I'm gonna resume attacking this rail, trying to get it off. As you can see, getting the spot welds in there, that's very, very tight, not a lot of room. Usually, you know, you have to drill them and then get a tool underneath of them to pop them. To get this plate off, which holds like a little structure bar that goes across, because the spot welds for the frame rail run underneath of here. From underneath of the car, they're not accessible. They kind of tuck into the rocker. I feel like the most challenging part of this is, after I get it all out, is getting the other frame rail into position. And there's not really any how to replace your unibody on these cars, so yeah, we got this plate out, kinda. Alright, with that plate out of the way and cleaned up, and I'm only guessing here, but looking at the other rail, it looks like the horizontal tab starts here. So this layer above is the floor, and my assumption is underneath of this layer would be the tab for the frame rail underneath. On the outside, it's very self-explanatory. You can see it follows along there, goes in underneath of there, which those are accessible from the bottom, but this section is not. So you can see what I mean from underneath. It goes straight up and, you know, to the floor essentially. Going through the rest of the wheel well, it doesn't get any easier. All right, we got that layer up. So now you can see the edge of the frame rail under there. So that is now all accessible. I don't really see any spot welds per se, which is kind of scary. So I'm gonna start trying to pop that up, see what it's willing to do before moving on to the other side. All right, so as I suspected, there isn't any welds. There's just glue. So I'm using this hardwood floor tool here. You see, once I get it under, I can peel it back. Very tight spot. And yeah, frig, a couple hours of this, and this 8-inch spot will be removed from the car. Well, at least this tab. Am I confident about doing this repair? No, not at all. Would I do this on a customer's car? Absolutely not. I'd tell you to trash your car, because this is a massive undertaking. For my own car, I'm definitely willing to try, and I'm sure I'll learn some stuff along the way. Got it all peeled back there, so the upper layer, that's the floor. That middle layer sticking straight up, which I bent it straight up because I figured that's the easiest way to remove it. When I get to that point, then it will just slide right down. Moving on to the next section here, I chose to do the next most difficult because the bottom inside is pretty simple, very straightforward, whereas this is, the wheel well is layered over the frame rail. So Currently, it doesn't look like I have too many spot welds to drill out, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Some progress here. I got the wheel well separated from the frame rail. Now I am into another layer. Deep inside there, there's some more spot welds. The only way I can get to them is if I precision drill through this layer and hit those spot welds, or I just cut this guy out for now. So I think I'm gonna go with cut this guy out for now. I believe I have that all separated there, moving underneath. So this is between the frame rail and like the inner rocker. So you can see my spade all the way to there. So I believe I have that separated. That was kind of tricky to do. So next I'm gonna wire wheel off these tabs so I can expose the spot welds. There they are. And drill them all out, which is a good variety of them. It's quite a stretch, a couple feet there. Then I'm pretty close to getting the frame rail off. Got all the old seam sealer ground off, and I've drilled out all the spot welds, so the frame rail is wiggly now. There it is. The frame rail is out. How am I gonna get the new frame rail in here in one piece? That I'm not yet sure of. It's gonna be pretty custom. That was a huge milestone just getting that out. There we are with the rail. So a lot of it was like rusted to that point, so it kind of fell apart. I started getting it down to bare metal. I'm gonna have to chop out that section. So now I'm gonna begin with cleaning up the floor. It's not horrible, but it's not good enough to leave. All right guys, forgive me on getting the frame rail in at this point. The reason I did not have this filmed is I did not have my camera with me. So this is actually the same day and someone brought me my camera here. So I have the rear subframe in to keep it straight and in place, along with my very crusty rear bumper beam. Everything lined up nice. I've got it very flush to the floor. Probably used half a dozen self-tappers to pull the floor down tight to it. And along with the sides there, now I'm going through, and from the top, I drilled out the holes rather than weld above my head. So you can see a little burn there from the top. I did get it exactly where it was supposed to be, which is great. I don't think I would have compromised on that. All right, with everything welded with respect to the frame rail inside, I still have a bracket to put there and that to weld there. I still have a lot of welding to do, but the frame rail is all welded on the inside. So I have some welding to do on the outside now, and then after that, I'm going to begin chopping out the bad. I've got a massive amount of welding done on this car so far. The last two items to repair and weld are both of the shock towers here, and they are quite the units. Side here we have a rough mock-up. So these little holes, I'm going to punch them out, do spot welds there. This will give it some nice rigidity. So next step with this is remove it and then prep all the metal underneath, punch all my holes, and then this one is ready to weld. Alright, now we've got the other side chopped out here, pretty rough cut. So I'm going to go ahead and start to make my patches for this. Great milestone on the car. All the patches are complete. Now I have to prep all the surfaces to actually start to begin to weld them in. Alright, I've got my patches all ready, and I've got my car all ready. So these are going to be like, this faces the inside of the car, so you'll never get to that. So I've painted it this certain shade of blue to avoid getting lasered by the government. So everything is ready to party over here. Next step is go over the spots anywhere that it's going to overlap, and we're going to put some weld through primer on there. With the floor all cleaned up and the shock towers all prepped, I've wiped down the whole inside of the car. I'm gonna go ahead and do the epoxy inside the car. Now, I'm not doing every square inch because it's unnecessary. It's just gonna be the spots wherever I did a repair or remove some surface rust inside of the car. I'm gonna be doing this with a brush. Reasons I'm using a brush is it keeps it clean, then I don't have to mask stuff, and it's easy to control. And again, you're not gonna see underneath of the carpet or interior. And the main goal is just to seal up the work. Everything now all primed. We're gonna go ahead with some urethane seam sealer here. We don't need to get everything, just mostly the repairs that we did, so that mostly pertains to the shock towers there, along with some spots underneath of the car. All right, we are near ready to wrap this video up. The last thing I'm gonna do here is add some fine rocker guard underneath of this to give it a little bit of texture, kind of make it a bit more uniform now that I've seam sealed everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera, just because you won't really see me applying black over black. Alright guys, well this wraps up this video. We made some mega gains. I kept every piece of the car that I cut out, which as you can see was a lot. So in the next video we're going to get into restoring the pieces that attach to the car, and we'll see how far we can go with that before we run out of time. Alrighty guys, till the next one, peace.